Guys, we have to talk. A serious talk. Well, as you know, I made this video about when I polished my terminals of the cells. Well, probably not the best idea I ever had, but you know, I read about this in the forums and people were talking about sanding and polishing battery terminals. So I thought, well, this is the way to go, you know? This is what you have to do. So, but honestly, I didn't do much research in this whole thing because it was fairly clear how to sand and to polish a terminal, a piece of metal. And this is exactly what I did. And I would really like to thank everyone who left comments under these videos when I polished these. And I would actually say about 50% of the comments were rather critical. Yeah, and people said, well, Andy, you don't need to polish your terminals. It's not necessary. It's actually bad if the terminals are too smooth. The actual conductivity is obviously better if the terminal is a bit rough and not super smooth. This is actually for a different project. But why we should have this serious talk today is because a very small minority of comments were actually really bad. They were written really angry and abusive. Not only abusive against me, but against others in the community as well. And I certainly cannot tolerate that. You know, I always read all your comments. I'm taking your advice, whatever I do. But honestly, guys, there's no room here on this channel for being abusive or angry against others or me. So that's why I had to ban and block 2 accounts. Gone. And I know 99.999% of you guys, they're leaving constructive and healthy feedback, which I, as you can see, take into account. I'm reading all your comments. I'm replying to. And this is what the whole channel is about, you know. We are helping each other out. I'm trying to film and explain everything I'm doing here, building up this system here. And I'm, as I always said, I'm not an expert in everything. I read things here and there. I watch other videos. I'll do up my mind and then I start building the stuff the same way I think it is correct, you know. And if I'm not correct, well, you guys let me know and I usually follow your advice. Yeah, all this solar gear here just came from Solar Mart. If you need any inverters, solar charge controllers, batteries, solar systems, solar mounts, DC breakers, yeah, talk to Raj here. He's a great guy and the prices are better than on eBay. By the way, I'm not sponsored or something by Solar Mart. I'm just a customer. I'm a happy customer, so I'm happy to pass this on. And I really hope I'm getting your support as well for that, because I think there's no exception. There's no room here for any abuse, any angry comments, nothing like this. You know, we are all here for one purpose. We want to build solar battery systems, we want to learn, we want to help each other out, we want to leave constructive feedback, but we don't want to get abusive or angry about anything. Life is too short, just be nice here on the channel and in general in life. So a big thank you to all my 6,129 So a big thank you to all my 6,231 subscribers for doing the right thing, helping each other out, helping me out, and being friendly and polite here on the channel. Thank you, guys. Well, and talking about thank you, I want to thank Jason, who has sent me an email last week, a long email with lots of links in it. And I usually say, again, an email from someone who wants me to look at some products, who wants some advice in what to buy and everything. No, actually Jason wants to help me. And as you know, guys, I've got all this Victron gear now here. And I'm looking into a GX product from Victron at the moment, which actually can connect all these devices together and upload the data from all these devices into the cloud, and we can control and monitor the whole system from our mobile phone. And some of you guys have already suggested this and said, well, why don't you use a Raspberry Pi computer, mini computer, and connect this all together? It's very easy to do. I did some research, well, a tiny bit of research only, and found, well, this is actually a lot of work to do and maybe worth a 5th channel here for me on YouTube to just get this Raspberry Pi up and running and connect this to all my Victron gear. Well, my viewer Jason, he sent me this amazing email, and he put all the links in this email for all the products, for all the items I need to build this, and also put comments in there how to do it, and linked to other videos where it is explained how to set this up and how to get this up and running. Jason, I did it. I ordered everything you said. So I clicked on all the links he provided, and I ordered all this gear from Core Electronics. It's not sponsored as well. This is all bought from my own money, all this stuff here. I'll link this down below. It seems like they have the best prices for these. I mean, look at this computer. This is insane. Look at my mobile phone and look at this computer. This is insane. So I took the plunge now and ordered all this stuff here, all these cables and cable adapters here and all this stuff. And I will do videos about this as well here. So if you are not in computer technology, maybe skip these videos. But it sounds like it is fairly easy to set this all up here. It shouldn't be a big problem. There's not too much to do on a computer, and you don't need to program anything. It is all, you need to download the software for it, put this on a little SD card, put the SD card in the computer and start the computer, and that's pretty much it. This one collects all the information and uploads it to the Victron portal, and we can connect the app to the portal and see all the information, and can also change settings and configuration from the app from wherever we are here in the Off-Grid Garage. Then this is exactly what I wanted, but this is so much cheaper. This is only $100 for all this stuff, including the computer, a case, and all these cable adapters here. Jason, thank you so much for sending this email. I really appreciate it, and I hope if I have a question I can just email you back and ask you. Okay, I'm not, as you know, I'm not a big fan of these stationary camera setups, but for the serious talk it was necessary to do that. So yeah, well, I need to show you something. Before you get really shocked now, what I'm going to show you right now, well, this video is a bit from the future. You haven't seen all the other videos yet. After the last video I posted where I connected the inverter with the big cables to the battery. So the videos you will watch afterwards here in the next couple of days, they will have the enclosure with the inverter and solar charge controller and all the cabling still in there. It actually is right behind you. It looks a bit different at the moment, so I just want to show you this quickly and probably talk about quickly about what's going to happen. Well, you have probably seen my post already in the community side of my channel where I said there's a problem with the Victron charge controller. Yes. Well, this is the GEN, the other controller here I bought, which actually shows the wrong voltage. And this is all now, this is all here Frankenstein together, because the cables were too thick for these terminals here. But I needed a charge controller here to keep the battery charged and everything. So it looks like, I probably don't look at it. Well, it all works, it's all fine. It's just a temporary stuff, because I have sent the Victron charge controller back to the company where I bought it in January. And they will send me another one, which they have apparently tested. But yeah, let me quickly explain what actually happens with the Victron charge controller, what the problem is. The charge controller locks up. It doesn't supply any DC power anymore to the battery at some stage. It still gets solar input, it still shows the battery voltage, but it does not deliver any power anymore. You can disconnect the solar, and it still shows mostly 130 volt DC on the solar input. Even there's nothing connected. So in the past I just disconnected everything. It happened about 5 times. And you know, I had the charge controller here sitting on the workbench here for a couple of weeks when we tested and built up the battery pack and everything. And I thought, well, it's not an optimal situation because it's not upright, and the heat probably cannot really disappear. So the cooling was not optimal, of course. And now I have put everything into the cabinet for about 2 weeks now. It's sitting upright, so the air can actually circulate around the charge controller. It has a metal back wall which gives it additional cooling, and still the charge controller locks up. And this is not only when the sun is out. This is also when the sun has already moved to the west side of the garage and there's almost no power coming from the solar panels. 200 or 300 watts. Still, the charge controller locks up. Happens every 2, 3, 4 days. It doesn't beep, it doesn't show you any error codes, it doesn't log anything in the app. In the app there's actually a location where you can see if there's an error logged. Nothing. It just locks up. What I have to do is I have to disconnect the solar, I have to disconnect the battery, wait a couple of seconds, reconnect everything. So basically restart the whole controller, and then it works again. Just fine. But if you don't monitor it, if you don't control the charge controller all the time, it locks up and never goes back to normal again, and you lose the solar power for the whole day. So I did some research, as you would do in such a case, and I found an entry in the Victron community forum where other people have exactly the same problem with the Victron Smart Charge Controller 150/35. Machine locks up, doesn't supply any DC power, they need to restart. So yeah, I got back to the company where I bought it. It's getting heavy. So I got back to the company where I bought it in January and said, look, this is the case, this is the link to the community stuff. I've done a video. So we are having again a problem with the Smart Charge Controller 150/35 here. I have just pulled all the fuses for the solar input, so there's no voltage on the input here, but the device still claims it's 132 volt input. And even if I close the fuses again, so we should get some power now from the solar. It will not track any power points, nothing, and doesn't supply any power. I had this once before and had to completely isolate the charge controller from the battery and also from the solar to reset the whole device, and then it worked again for 2 days, and now it just happens again. And this is running the newest software. Okay, I have now isolated the solar input again, and we are measuring here on the solar input of the charge controller, and it still claims we've got 130 volt DC, even there's nothing connected to it. I even can measure this here at the terminals of the fuses, but the fuse is isolated, and we have only about 96 volt of DC coming from the solar, but the charge controller claims we've got 130 volt DC on the input terminals. So I have to manually disconnect one of the terminals here for the battery, reset the whole charge controller, and then reconnect, and then it starts working again. Alright, isolated the positive of the battery. Charge controller has turned off after a few seconds. I'll push this back in quickly and we test again. Alright, just connected the charge controller back, and now we can see the voltage has reduced to 0, which is correct because we have isolated everything. So we connect the first string and second string again to the charge controller. We've got voltage, and now it starts sensing the voltage and supplying power just in a second. And then it works again for another 2 days and the same stuff happens again. I don't know what triggers that. There we go. Now it's working fine. Well, and this is exactly what the controller does. And I don't know how to fix it. People don't know how to fix it. Victron is obviously aware of all this stuff. They have tried older firmwares to flash the controllers with older firmware and everything, and nothing has worked for these guys. So, and apparently Victron replaced the 150/35 with a 150/45. And I said, well, I really don't need to upgrade my inverter, because even the 35 amps coming from this inverter is actually too much for the solar I've got on the roof here. And as you know, I've got only the 1.3 kilowatt system here on the roof. So this is only 20 amps coming from the solar panels, and the inverter can do 35. So it's just a bit over half of the power for the inverter, and it still locks up. And people on the forum were discussing this back and forward, and one guy said, well, I've put a fan on the controller and since then it works. Yeah, I'm not really happy with this solution then, because this is a Victron device. It is fairly expensive. It should just work as they designed it. You know, I don't want to fix this with a fan. It's not like a $80 device from Alibaba or AliExpress or something. It's a Victron charge controller. It costs a lot of money, it's expensive, and it should work as they design it without a fan. So, having a look into the manual and the specifications of the charge controller, it actually says operational temperature -30 to +60 degrees Celsius. 60 degrees Celsius operational temperature. There's a little star on it. The star says from 40 degrees it can reduce the power. This was one of the criteria. I have chosen this charge controller actually for exactly this application here, because I know it gets hot here in the garage. It is sunny hot Australia, it gets hot here. We sometimes have 40, 42 degrees outside. Not very often, it's only 1 or 2 days a year, you know. But in summertime we've got between 35 and 40 degrees for a couple of weeks. So the charge controller should actually do this. And well, if it reduces the power, if it gets hot, that's totally fine with me. I've got nothing to complain with it. It is in the manual, I know about this, but it should run until it reaches 60 degrees, you know. And I've never measured more than 44 degrees on the charge controller. And again, I've got only 1.3 kilowatt of solar connected and not the maximum of 2.4 or something in the controller can. So this long story short, now the controller is on its way back to Brisbane to the company. They have sent me another one already, probably a used one as well. They have tested this one. It didn't lock up since last week for them, but they had the same shitty weather as we have. It is raining for the last 2 days. Yeah guys, sometimes it rains here in Australia. You know, clouds, no sunshine at all. It's like this really, really bad depression weather people have in Europe and everywhere. So there was no sun at all. I've harvested about 1.2 kilowatt hours today from solar, just cloudy weather, you know. And the maximum was, I think, 250 watts I've seen on the solar charge controller. That was the maximum today from our 1.3 kilowatt system. And they had the same shitty weather in Brisbane when they tested the other controller and said, well, ours is not locking up. And I said, well, charging with 200 watts only, that's not really a test. Well, anyways, send me this other controller if you've tested it. I'm happy to put it in here in the cabinet again and see what it does. So I'm not happy if they are not enforcing it with Victron Energy afterwards. I will go back to Victron and say, look, I've spent here almost $2,000 on your equipment here and it's not working optimal. The charge controller is locking up. I'm not a happy customer and I'm continuing making videos about this stuff and making bad videos about Victron. So if they know there's a problem with this product, they need to fix it. Either with a software update or they need to replace these charge controllers wherever they fail. This is my honest opinion as a customer, and I think everyone else would do the same. Alright guys, I think this is the video for today. So in the next couple of videos you will see the old MPPT charge controller from Victron still in the case here in the cabinet. So don't be surprised and say, well, you had the JNGG, I don't know, the JN whatever controller in here, and now you've got the Victron back. What's going on? Well, this is the video from the future now. This is current, this is today, Tuesday the 16th, whatever. Yeah, March 16 in the evening, it's dark. That's why I make this video. It's from the future, but the next couple of videos, forget about it. Just watch the videos and enjoy them. It doesn't really matter. At some stage the past will catch up with the future again, and then everything makes sense again. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching again. Thanks for all your support here on the channel. And you stay charged, stay safe, be nice, and we shall see us again in the next video, hopefully with some better news, some good news. I just want to quickly show you these amazing DC breakers here. Well, they are actually isolators, because they are isolating positive and negative now. If one trips, it isolates everything. So this will replace my fuses. And also I have ordered a 40 amp between solar charge controller and the battery or the inverter. Yeah. And of course, I said goodbye already. Okay. I have ordered bus bars as well for the whole cabinet now. So we are not going to connect the solar charge controller to the studs of the inverter anymore. We will have bus bars in there, four stud bus bars in there, 250, 300 amps or something, and we connect everything to these bus bars then. So again, thank you very much for your advice. I had ordered them already yesterday before I got your advice, but thank you again, just to confirm I'm doing the right thing here, ordering these bus bars. They should arrive at some stage, so there's heaps of stuff going on in the production area over there. We will have to recable the well, anyway guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you then. Bye bye.